Games between Tottenham and West Ham are always a bit spicy. However, with both clubs level on points in the top four race, Sunday's match takes on an extra level of importance. Before we get the thoughts of our expert panel, let's hear from both managers, starting off with Antonio Conte.
It will be a really tough game for both teams. We are in the same position on the table, and I think in this moment we have the same target. It's a derby, and don't forget that a derby is always difficult. I think that my team is now we are in a good moment of form, and we are improving a lot. It will be very important to have a fantastic atmosphere around us and in the stadium. Our fans, they have to play an important part of the game, and I'm sure because like of the other game, and they can help us to push us from the start until the end, and to create a fantastic atmosphere around us. It will be very important on Sunday.
They're all important, isn't it? No, whatever you are playing, whether it was a team at the bottom of the league or whether it was a team at the top of the league, it's an important game. Always is. It's a derby for West Ham and for Tottenham, so we know it's a difficult game. Always the priority's always been the Premier League, because where you finish in the league, gets you the chance to qualify for Europe if you do well. It's your bread and butter as far as I'm concerned. But I think trying to be in cup competitions, I think as well, adds to what you're trying to do at your football club. We're trying to become better, trying to grow our club, and continue to make strides forward.
It is the game of the weekend. This is huge. It's a London derby, but with both teams on equal points in the Premier League table and both fighting for the same thing, they're still all going for that Champions League spot. Is it fair to say that whoever loses this game almost counts themselves out of that race? Yeah,
I think you're right. I think West Ham really, they looked like they were right there, and then they had a little blip. Jason mentioned that before. But I just think they're so hard to play against, West Ham. I just love what David Moyes is doing there. But Tottenham, obviously with Kane and Son on the top of the pitch, you never know. If they have a good day, I mean, to be fair, they probably should have got something at Old Trafford the way that they played. If it wasn't for Ronaldo, they probably would have. But I just think that game literally could be anything. But I just think with Kane and Son, I think they get something. And also Thursday, obviously West Ham went to extra time. I think they'll be a bit tired. So favourites are obviously Tottenham being at home and not playing as long. OK, well, let's start with the away side then. Let's start with West Ham after last night's result, because the London Stadium was absolutely incredible last night. But as Owen pointed out, extra time for these players who already we saw Antonio and Cresswell come off injured in the match at the weekend. They were both fit enough to start last night. But how much of a factor could that play coming into this game?
I think it's a huge factor in terms of fatigue, the amount of games they've had, 120 minutes. And not only that, the adrenaline of such a big game and the emotion that goes in it drains you a little bit. When you play and it's such a big game, whether you're the fittest player or not, there's something that just runs through your body that fatigues you quicker than normal. And it's one of those games last night that some of the players, and you saw Cresswell, I think it was more cramped that he went down with last night. So they've had to work hard last night, and I think that will play a huge part in the game at Tottenham. And Tottenham at home, I think, are strong. And as you mentioned, Kane and Son together, I think their partnership, their link-up, I think it's going to be a Tottenham win at the weekend.
Look, last night's win for West Ham is probably one of the biggest in the club's recent history, Owen. Farah points out that kind of feeling after one of those big victories. Do you think the players will have got much sleep last night, and how does that impact how they train today? Because David Moyes wasn't giving them a day off today. No, and to be fair, a lot of those players would have never been in a game like that big. Against a team, they've won the Europa League 6 times. Yeah. So I think they definitely wouldn't have slept. Their families would have been annoying them. They would have wanted to have drinks celebrating. It will have affected probably training today, but it's a great feeling, and Farah makes a great point. Emotionally, physically, it's draining, but emotionally, it's draining as well. So, big job for David Moyes. Obviously, I think he's done an amazing job. They're overachieving big time, but he'll want to finish the job and get the job done. So, I think it's a positive thing that they're kicking on and getting to the next phase, but they'll definitely be tired. On the flip side of that, the momentum and the confidence they take into this match. Jason, do you think that could actually get them over the line against Spurs?
Well, I don't know why we're even discussing this. It's going to definitely be a West Ham win. 100%, yeah, because that was what's the Tottenham sequence? Win, lose,
win, lose, yeah.
So
yeah,
they
you're
won
right.
in midweek, so what's the discussion?
Yeah, Brighton did West Ham a favour, didn't they, by
So,
losing at
I
the
don't-
end of the
I don't
week. Here you
understand.
go. This is what you're talking about, Jason. Their last run of games in the last 7, it has literally flip-flopped from a win to a defeat.
That's all David Moyes needs to tell his players.
As simple as that, is it?
Yeah,
Is that why Conte's so prickly all the time?
yeah, it's obvious
They've
what's
had
going to
one
happen.
home game in that run.
But no, I mean, I obviously the guys play professional football. I didn't, but I would have thought it would be very different if West Ham had lost last night. That they would have felt very drained after that. I think the win, surely, doesn't that then give you a bit more buoyancy going forward into the next game? I'd have thought. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm being a bit simplistic about it, but I'd have thought that would also be a big factor in how they feel about going to this game on Sunday.
And on top of that, their last match in the Premier League was that victory at home against Aston Villa, where they had the moment of the weekend with Andrei Yarmolenko scoring the winner after coming onto the pitch when Antonio went off injured. It was just magical for sentimental reasons. But on top of that, it's his first Premier League goal this season as well, Farah, and everything that's happening off the pitch and in his home country, this was just special, wasn't it?
Oh yes, I mean really special. I mean to be able to play and perform at the level that he did, the finish was unreal. I mean the take was beautiful, and then to just snapshot outside of the left foot, fantastic finish. But to know what's going on in your home country, to be in a war and your family's there or friends, and be able to actually play in a game of football and try and put those distractions aside. I mean, it's huge credit to him. You see the emotion here with him. He's playing with huge emotion, and look, he performed again and got the winning goal last night, which is fantastic. But I mean, credit to him, because it's a difficult moment for him and people of Ukraine to even be able to face up to it and come out and play, football is remarkable.
The football side of things, Owen, could this be a defining moment in his West Ham career? Can he use this to kick on?
Well, he's a fabulous player. He's always been a fabulous player. Great technician. You probably wouldn't have put Andrei Yarmolenko and David Moyes together in terms of styles, but he works. And obviously with Jared Bowen out, obviously that's a huge blow to them. He's amazing for them. So I think with Bowen being out injured, Yarmolenko's come in and played a huge role, obviously against Aston Villa and again yesterday. So I think again, I love to see the players' reaction when they go up to him. Obviously against Villa and even yesterday, they're a big family, and they're all trying to support him. What he's having to deal with off the pitch is just uncharted territory, and I just think it just shows the football community's there for him, and he's producing. It's been difficult for him after that leave of absence, but 2 huge performances from him in the last 2 games.
I think as a player, I think he's been a little bit disappointing at West Ham, because I'm with Owen. I mean, he's a fabulously talented player. What they tell me at West Ham, by the way, is that he gets on really well with Souček and Koufal, and they've got an incredible work ethic, those two. I mean, they're always there. They're the first in the training, last out, always in the gym, and they've kind of encouraged him to sort of follow those two a little bit more. So I think and David Moyes obviously wants his players to work incredibly hard. I think Yarmolenko's talent sometimes has meant he hasn't always applied it in the most hard-working way at times. But I think he's definitely trying to do more of that with those players now. And I'm slightly disappointed that he hasn't played more regularly anyway for West Ham because of how talented he is.
I was adding on that. I was going to say you've seen in the last 2 games, and in particular last night, in 118 minutes into the game, and he's working his socks off to try and win the ball back. I think his work ethic. I think look, he's talented, but he's inconsistent, isn't he? He's a player that technical players they only like it when they've got the ball, and often they don't show the work rate away from that. He showed that in the last 2 games, and maybe it is Souček that's really ankle fell that have helped him in that.
Souček and Koufal have sort of teamed up as this little sort of gym bunnies, and obviously he goes and works with them.
Well, I tell you what, I watched the game after, and he took his shirt off and threw it into the crowd to somebody, and he looked like a boxer. I couldn't believe. I've never seen a flair player be that ripped. So he must have been in the gym a lot with those boys. They're rubbing off on him.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, same here, Farah. Same. Let's talk about Spurs now, because Jason pointed out that bizarre run of form, that flip-flopping between winning and losing. So how do they break that? It seems bizarre almost, Owen, that they have Kane and Son, the best partnership in Premier League history, and yet they can't seem to string together a set of wins.
Yeah, but what else have they got?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Jules, I mean, if they don't, and to be fair, they played really well at Old Trafford.
Conte?
Yeah, he's great. He's amazing, but he's not out on the pitch. They need Conte when he played, because he was a fabulous player, by the way. But I thought they played great at Old Trafford, but Kane and Son were a tiny, tiny bit off it. They had so much of the ball, they dominated the game, and they should have won. But they were a tiny bit off it, and if they are, they lose. So I think for Conte, I mean, think about it, they lost to Middlesbrough. and they lost to Burnley. I mean, that you're not losing to the top teams. You're losing to teams you should beat comfortably. So I love Conte. I think he's just what Spurs need. But if the boys don't buy in, they'll be playing somewhere else next year. And I just think he needs more people in the mould of Kane and Son. It needs a little bit more flair. I like Kulusevski. I think he gives them something different. I like Bentancur. I think he gives them something. But I think the big place he's got to fix in the summer is the defence. Romero, I think, is a great addition to that side. But they need a little bit more. And I think that's where they'll have some surgery.
Do you think that's the key problem there as well, Farah? Is it just fixing that defence and then Tottenham might be a bit more consistent?
I certainly think the defence need fixing. I think the midfield. I think Højbjerg, I don't think they have enough in there. There's not enough creative in that midfield for Son and Kane. And as you mentioned, when they're off of it, it's very difficult for Tottenham to get any success in any game. So if they're slightly off their game, Kane and Son, where else are you seeing goals come from or chances being created from? I don't see it in the Spurs midfield either. But likewise at the back, they're weak at the back and Dyer, overly keen and Dyer at the back in a back two, especially in a back three, he's a little bit more comfortable. He's got people alongside him, but in a two, I think he gets exposed.
After the January window closed, Jason, there was quite a lot of optimism around this Tottenham side after the signings they made and because Antonio Conte had recently been appointed as well. So why has it not gone quite to plan?
Well, you can see how frustrated he is with that because he's probably asking himself exactly the same question, isn't he? We saw obviously a few weeks ago when he was basically putting it out there that he might be on his way and then he changes. Actually, to be fair, he's showing his inconsistency, the way he's talked, mirrors the team. So I think it all needs to settle down. It's all far too volatile. And he's up and down, and he's up and down, and they're up and down, and they're up and down. So I think it just reflects a kind of sense of, not unhappiness, but a little bit of confusion at Tottenham. I think they really need to sort of settle down and work out what they're going to do. Are they going to stick with, or is this manager going to stick with them, by the way? Not that they'd love him to stay. Is he going to stick with them? And if he's going to stick with them, what are they going to do? Is it the time to sell Harry Kane and then use that money? Is it the time to try and invest more in the team? What are we going to do with some of these players? Because I agree with the guys, and that you look beyond Kane and Son and maybe Romero and what really is there? There's nothing really in that midfield that you're going to hang your hat on, is there? And obviously Kulusevski's on there and Bentancur's gone there, but they need so much more. So I think they've got to make a decision as to what to do. But I think his volatility is reflected in the team. And I think if I was Tottenham, I'd be sitting down with him and saying, what are we going to do here? Are we going to stay with you? Are you going to stay with us? And that might calm everything down a little bit.
Does Harry Kane's future at the club depend on whether or not Tottenham get that Champions League spot?
I think he'll want to jump ship in the summer. I mean, personally, I just think being 28, he's a fabulous player, a great player, probably an iconic, maybe even the greatest ever goal scorer in the Premier League. But to be an iconic great, you got to win a little bit. You got to win something, And I think that's what he wants now. I think he wants to win. I think he deserves to win something. If Spurs can't put a project around him, around Kane and Son, then he should look elsewhere. I think there's been rumours of false promises and different things. Conte's the same. I like it. Conte's putting Daniel Levy under pressure, saying, if you don't spend the money, I'm out of here. Because obviously that's why he left Inter. He wants a team around him. He's a winner. He don't want to sit there and finish 4th and 5th. And I think Kane's in the same boat. At 28, he wants to see progression. Top 4, 5th, 6th. That's not enough for a guy like Harry Kane. He wants to win a trophy. And it's a great point. Do you sell Kane and then reinvest the money? But the problem is they need a lot. They need a lot of work. So it'll be an interesting summer at Tottenham.
Okay, in one team name, who finishes higher out of these two? Farah, you can go first.
Tottenham.
Tottenham higher,
yeah,
Jason?
Yeah.
I think Tottenham.
Yeah, Tottenham.
Tottenham. They got a game in hand.
Yeah.
I think they'll get the job done. I think West Ham, they're going to try and win the Europa League.
It wasn't one team name. But thanks anyway. I appreciate the detail.